Coming to you from the Loading Ready Run orbiting underground moon base, it's the LRRcast.
Ooh.
This week, it's the SpoopCast.
SpoopCast.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh.
So scary.
Creepy stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't.
Yeah.
I was seriously about to do like the Value Village Halloween slogan. Their old one, anyway.
Oh.
Value Village, where you can get creepy for cheapy.
Boo.
Hey, that was the real thing. I didn't make that up.
Boo. Yeah, no,
The,
I wouldn't doubt it.
I mean,
creepy
I
for
I
cheapy.
repeated it. So
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
you brought it into this house.
Halloween is like it's their Christmas. It's their WrestleMania. It's like they start stocking Halloween stuff in August.
I mean, Christmas is also their Christmas. They do have a lot of Christmas stuff too.
It's nowhere
During
near
Christmas time.
It's nowhere as good as for them as Halloween is.
Oh yeah, I find it somehow. It seems wrong that a lot of the stuff now is actually like new stuff.
Yeah, they bring in
Yeah.
a lot of new stock.
To me, that kind of defeats the whole
They
Value
want to
Village.
be your costume headquarters.
Yeah.
I don't know. Anyway, hey, what's up? It's October, which means Halloween is a month away, and yet everyone has changed their Twitter avatars.
Yeah.
So
Well, just be happy that we waited until October.
Yeah.
no kidding.
You didn't push it before October.
There were people who were changing their avatars on like September 27th because they were just so excited for the month of Halloween.
What do you mean we, Paul? You're not even on Twitter.
No, I'm just saying people waiting, people doing Halloween stuff.
Yeah.
Well, that reminds me,
What-
I need a Halloween avatar.
Is there a special Halloween avatar generator that people are using?
No, some people are just changing to sort of creepy stuff. Actually, a lot of people we know personally, Ash has drawn them a Halloween version.
Oh,
Yeah.
I see.
It's the avatar. Actually, I don't mind as much. I'm very curmudgeonly about this. It's the changing of the name, the changing their given names for the whole month, because it means it's like
It's just confusing.
well, you see a tweet and it's like retweeted by this person, and you're like, I don't know who that is.
Right, because it doesn't.
Who do I follow that? Because
It doesn't tell you what their actual Twitter name is. Yeah, very annoying.
granted, there are a couple of funny ones out there. My sister,
One or two.
at someone's suggestion went with
Are you afraid of the Stark?
"Are You Afraid of the Stark?"
Yeah.
Which someone told her that she should do Nickelodeon's "Are You Afraid of the Stark?" and I was like, no, that is a YTV show.
Yes.
That is a Canadian show that most people know because it aired on Nickelodeon in the States, but whatever.
So that's too long.
I also like Beaches.
And that was the other one I was going to mention,
yeah.
which was Netflix and Kill. If you're into that. So he should post like 20 minutes into Netflix and Kill, and he looks at you like this, and it's just like a picture of
Like Leatherface.
or Hellraiser or something. Yeah.
Hellraiser movie's not on Netflix.
no,
Really?
at least
very
not on
sad.
Netflix
Well,
Canada.
you have to open the puzzle box.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Or someone at Netflix, one of the Netflix licensing lawyers has to open the puzzle box.
Yeah. Yeah, just get
If
on
you haven't
solving
seen
the
Hellraiser,
That's
this joke is a bit of a walk.
The
That's
lament
like-
configuration is the name of the puzzle box. Also, Le Marchand's puzzle, or Le Marchand's
a real thing?
configuration. Well, I mean, like people have made them, so now they're a real thing. But
Okay.
like,
I wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
Why would you do that?
yeah, I mean, I maybe you could also solve a Rubik's cube. Who knows?
Oh, okay. You solve a Rubik's Cube and a Cenobite shows up and is just like, hey, what's up?
it's a lot of
One of these
Cenobites.
things. Damn it!
Yeah,
That's true. There could be like less
Less cool.
less
Cenobites.
violent, less evil Cenobites.
well, but that's the thing I always liked about the Cenobites is that they aren't evil. Like they just do what they do
Yeah.
because you open the puzzle box and
you're
their
like-
whole thing is, what is it? It's like creating extreme experiences,
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
they don't really see what they do as being evil. They just attach hooks to people and drag them around and stuff.
Yeah, because they called.
Yeah,
right?
because
It's like
the
you
opening the
open-
puzzle box indicates that I'm totally into that.
Right.
Yeah, well, it's like, why would you open this puzzle box that's clearly evil?
If you didn't want hooks put into your skin and be
Yeah.
dragged around by a giant
Yeah.
And it's like,
flayed man.
why'd you solve the puzzle?
So
if
yeah,
you didn't-
maybe there's Rubik's Cubes that have,
Like-
Cenobites that will show up and challenge you to a game of Scrabble.
Or maybe it's just like, when you're in public and cubing, and some guy shows up and is like, "You have to turn it this way," and that's basically what the entire Hellraiser experience is based on. Kind of like trying to play solitaire in public.
What was that joke from? I think it might have been on some sort of post online. It was like if you,
I think that joke has been around for like 100 years.
Just
Like how, you always pack like a deck of cards in your survival kit.
so in case you get lost, you can just start playing solitaire because then someone will show up
Yeah.
and tell you that you missed.
Yeah, it's like, no, you move that there. Apparently, somebody on stream told me that there's an engineer's version of that.
Oh, yeah.
Where you carry around just like a foot of fiber so you can bury it so somebody with a backhoe will show up.
And cut through it.
Nice.
Yeah.
The
I'm sure there's a magic version as well.
That is the experience of playing Magic Online, yes.
Yeah.
So okay, yeah. So this week, so we're doing the horror stuff,
We're going to talk about spoopy things.
and
Kind of.
I mean, actually, the Hellraiser thing is a good way to get into
Yeah.
talking about like movies and stuff.
Yeah.
And I find like Hellraiser, and like I'm not a big guy about. I don't really like scary movies. Like I'm not into that.
No. I never have been.
But I like Hellraiser, The Ring. I like movies where scary stuff happens, but in a very avoidable way.
Right.
Right? Like,
Right.
Well,
assume like even if the world of Hellraiser or the world of The Ring is real,
Yeah.
you just don't open the box or don't look at the movie,
Yeah.
and you're fine.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I mean, like that plays into
it means
really...
it can't happen to you.
Right?
Yeah.
Because I know now not to open the box.
Yeah.
Well, I was one of the people I follow on Twitter was talking about horror the other day, and she said like horror only really works when it is challenging the things that you love the most, right?
That's
and
when it's actually scary.
yeah, when it's just affirming something like. If it's like that your Twilight Zone shit where it's like, oh, technology is evil, then that's not horrifying.
No.
It's just smug. But like Hellraiser works so well on a horror level because it's about these people who think that they're like total edgelords,
Right.
right? Like, oh yeah, no, I'm totally into BDSM.
Yeah.
And Pinhead showing up being like, oh, are you?
My head is
Great.
full of nails.
Yeah,
Great. This will
Great.
be fun.
great. Let's see how you do with that.
Yeah.
Like I love the idea of horror operating in this mode where it gives you what you want in the worst way. Right? It's like the genie's wish.
Right. The monkey paw.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've always been of two minds about horror movies. That like one's it's weird. I guess there's two different sort of there's more than two genres. In the subgenres of horror.
There are two types of movies, period.
Yes. Movies and anime. No. Stuff like The Evil Dead, obviously.
Right.
B-movie stuff. Things that are, I guess, ostensibly like monster horror or whatever. I'm totally fine with that. The ones that are like actually... I'm not one of the people who's like, man, I really enjoy being scared.
Right.
I don't. That's not. Some people are super into that.
Yeah.
Like the Paranormal Activity. I watched the riff tracks of, and it was just kind of dumb. But
But the
what's that one that we watched in the Halloween party over at Ash's place?
It's not Paranormal Activity, but it's another one of those like found footage ones.
Yeah. I can't remember. It's recent.
Yeah, there's like 14 of them now.
Yeah. Anyway, the ones where it's like you're going to this movie for the express purpose of like being scared shitless.
Right.
I don't enjoy those.
people,
Right.
yeah, I think people would like the sort of you get kind of an adrenaline rush.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
well, I mean, like-
I get that, but I get
Yeah.
that from other things.
I'm not into that
like
myself.
like
no.
that's kind of operating in a mode like a roller coaster, right? Where you get like you actually do get an adrenaline rush from it.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't horror movies.
This is actually an amazing analogy for me personally because I do not like roller coasters. Like the tick 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 up and then it goes down and there's that sense of weightlessness which I loathe. And it's like the and then up and then I hate those. The Disneyland roller coasters like Big Thunder Mountain love because you go up just as high, but instead of it being like a umpteenth story drop, you descend, you like whip round corners real fast, and you go like up and down and around and over and up, it's much more interesting.
Right.
It takes longer. It's a very different kind of like adrenaline sensation.
Right.
I don't like the one that just like up and drop and up and drop.
Right.
Yeah, like those.
Like the roller coasters that are designed to be like absolutely terrifying, or where
it's
you
like,
go upside down, or
You will probably die.
Yeah, I don't like those roller
Well,
coasters.
like just that one kind of ride that takes you up to like
the
top.
elevator and then just drops you
And drops
no,
you.
fuck that.
Yeah.
Absolutely not.
That's like the purest form of roller coaster. Right?
Yeah.
Drop you.
It's very elemental.
Yeah.
Have you seen that ride? That's you actually just you get in a harness and they suspend you out over like this rig with sort of like net walls and like a net or whatever, and you're in this harness that makes it so that you can't like stretch your arms and legs out like you're in a ball, and then they just go and they pull the thing and you just drop. You are on no rope. You just fall.
And then you just bounce around?
No, then you just land in the net. You just
and then land in the net.
And that's it. Just thump, and you
So
land.
it's more of like a stunt person thing.
Basically, but it's like a ride at a theme park. And like you're in the safety part is this harness that you're in that stops you from
getting like whiplash and stuff.
It stops you from moving your body in a way that would land in a way that injures you.
Right.
But it's still like, it's like, all right, I guess if it's safe, but that's still. I mean, I don't even like I don't like the idea of like bungee jumping, and you're actually attached to something there.
Yeah, it's like next up we just straight waterboard you.
Yeah.
Right.
Just get in this river.
The Drowner Raider.
Bungee jumping sometimes says that they go.
Anyway,
into
sorry,
the water.
but that when you mention roller coaster, that sort of that feels analogous to me.
Yeah.
'Cause I don't like that one kind of roller coaster, but I enjoy the other one.
Well, like I mean, the literary work on horror was written like a couple hundred years ago by Anne Radcliffe, who was writing about basically wound up writing about trying to define what horror was, especially in relation to terror. Right? Like horror was supposed to be like this thing that disquieted you. Right? And terror was like, boo!
Right. The jump scare thing.
like frightening.
I guess
terror was frightening, whereas horror held an element of terror was the thing that made you want to cringe and hide, whereas horror was what fascinated you and made you unable to look away.
Right.
I guess then I prefer terror.
Okay.
And horror is like more.
If I had to choose.
And horror is sort of more in your own brain too.
Yeah.
It's sort of using your brain against you.
Yeah,
because like,
well, I mean, like, there are some movies that do both really well. Like Texas Chainsaw Massacre might have been like one of the is actually like a really effective body horror movie because like it feels like a slasher movie, right? Where you have Leatherface running around murdering this van full of teenagers, but the way it does it, like the actual implementation of the slashing, is very body horror-y. There's one moment where Leatherface comes through the front door and just like nails this guy with a hammer.
Yeah, that's actually the first kill in the movie, and I remember when I saw it that I was really taken aback by that. Yeah, because this is after the was it Jerry Bruckheimer? The Texas Chainsaw Massacre remake recently, and the trailer, which I didn't see, but the trailer is like ring and chainsaws everywhere, and you have this idea of like the slasher flicks or whatever, and it's the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and the first death in the movie is this guy just like opens a sliding door and Leatherface is there with a hammer and just goes punk in the temple, just hits him in the temple. There was a dull thud, and the body just drops like a sack of potatoes.
Yeah, and
I'm watching this like, holy shit! Like if he'd chopped him up in chainsaw bits, right? Like, and like gore flying everywhere. It would have been like, okay, I've seen blood in movies before, but it was just this thud.
Yeah, and like that's the body horror element. Yeah, right. Because what had been
disturbing.
What had been this character, this person, is suddenly transformed into like convulsing meat. Yeah. Right, and it's just like that. Like everything that person was is now gone. Yeah. Right. Like. I mean, in a horror movie or in an action movie or whatever, like people die all the time, right? But this was like, that was the deadest motherfucker I've ever seen.
Yeah, right. He really sold it.
Yeah.
Well, and it's interesting the way they can sort of dial up or down the like there's that weird dichotomy between something being like scary looking and something being actually horrifying, right?
Yeah.
Like gory is not necessarily like you're saying with the Chainsaw Massacre thing, like a guy chainsawing a bunch of people is not that scary. And in fact, you can dial it to the point where it's actually funny.
Ludicrous.
I'm not a big fan of very gory stuff, but Riccio I find almost hilarious.
Right.
Yeah.
But actually depicting what's interesting is, you would think the gorier, the scarier, but it's actually the opposite, right? The more realistic it is, the more, whacking somebody with a hammer, pretty effective way to kill somebody.
Yeah.
Probably be kind of like that, just kind of whack and they did go down. Not very, not a lot of fanfare.
Yeah.
Just kind of happens.
And like there have been some really effective horror movies that also have basically no gore or even death in them, like The Others. The one with Nicole Kidman,
right.
taking her family to like the country home with the servants.
Never do that.
And
Never
like,
take your family to the country home.
and there's just all this weird spooky shit going on, but there's no killing, no death, no gore. And it's a very classic ghost story, right? But it's also just utterly horrifying as it tracks towards this conclusion that you can see coming, right? But is totally unavoidable. And I suppose like it has a lot in common with the tragic there, right? And I wonder if anyone's ever done work on relating tragedy to horror, right? The unavoidable, the inevitable.
It's to me like the big difference between, in a lot of cases, like in a lot of cases, a lot of the stuff like with an action movie and a horror movie, they can follow a lot of the same lines,
right?
Especially when you're dealing with like monsters, horror and stuff. And to me, the big difference is in a horror movie, at the end, everything is not good.
Yeah.
Which is sort of the tragedy thing, right?
Yeah.
Where it's like at the end of the horror movie, they don't win.
Yeah.
The good guys don't win.
Or maybe one good guy is
like
alive.
Is
survives.
alive, but probably not
happy about
not
it.
winning.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like in Cabin in the Woods, right? Like they explicitly talk about this,
Right.
How you have the one, like at the end, you have the one virtuous character who's left alive, and their fate is kind of arbitrary and almost meaningless, whether they live or not, right? Like it's up to fate,
Right.
Right,
But
whether-
I mean, in Cabin in the Woods, the actual movie,
yeah.
the ending not so good.
Yeah, no,
things
no.
are not going to go well.
No. Yeah, there was.
It's a good movie. You should really watch
very
Cabin
very
in the
good
Woods.
movie.
You made me think of
And that sort of treads that line between horror and action and stuff.
you made me think of what you were saying earlier with the you like the movies like Hellraiser where it's like just don't open the box. And I think I'm similarly, but you look at stuff like when most people are they watch Hellraiser like that was a good horror movie and I can just not open the box. Whereas you look at something like Final Destination, where the whole premise of the movies is things happening in everyday life.
It's just arbitrary.
Nobody in our generation has not thought of the trailer for Final Destination 2 whenever they're driving behind a logging truck. Every single time you drive behind a logging truck, you're like, oh, this is some Final Destination stuff going on here.
Yeah.
Right? You keep your distance from the logging truck, even though they don't bounce like that. But the point being...
Keeping your distance from a logging truck,
It's
probably
just
not a
smart
bad
anyway.
idea.
Yeah. I mean, like if nothing else, there's lots of like wood chips and shit that can fly off them and twigs.
Yeah, exactly.
It's bad for your paint.
Yeah. But I mean that's why I don't enjoy those, because every single thing in that movie is just like a freak accident.
Right.
Like obviously to the point of comedy in a lot of situations, in that it's so far fetched, but everything is just like
But there's
I'm sorry.
well, there's that aspect of like, as obviously as a we do the videos and you do all the writing and stuff, and so you're obviously up in your imagination a lot of the time, right?
Yeah.
And so and usually that's for silly things, but not always. And anything that promotes that, like the thing in the shadows isn't nothing, is something.
Yeah.
Or that there's someone hiding in the whatever. Anything that, or just, just the stuff where it's just like really simple, it's just like, there's a guy who kills people.
Yeah.
For no particular reason. He just likes killing people, and he could be in your house. But it's just like, that's not a very original horror premise. But it's also like the one that I do not want to. It's just that's just going to make me. It's like, one, it's not very original, so I'm not interested to see it, and it's just going to make me like
paranoid.
Yeah. It's not. Yeah, that's what it is, right? It's not even like horror. It's not even like it makes me scared. It makes me paranoid.
Yeah,
which is a slightly different thing, but also very unpleasant.
The speaking of like being able to avoid horror, I think that's a really good handle on it. There's an other extreme to that, which Lovecraft does very well, which is the utterly unavoidable horror.
Right.
That is unavoidable because it is actually how the universe works.
Right.
Right? Like, the Lovecraftian idea that we live in a very privileged little bubble on top of something that is utterly incomprehensible.
And just getting a glimpse of that is enough to totally drive you insane.
Yeah. And like the insanity thing is whatever, but like I think that's a very good expression of horror. The idea that the way that we perceive the world is actually not terribly useful or accurate.
That there's something sort of above everything else or below.
Or both.
Yeah.
Right? Like that we live in like in a scientific sense, we live in a classical universe, right? Where like, you can knock something off a table and it falls, right? In a predictable path.
Right.
But like on the scales far, far above us and far, far below, things operate in very kind of different ways that are counterintuitive to us. And like, I like horror as also existing in a mode where it is counterintuitive.
Right.
In a way that points out how utterly useless our experience is for parsing certain things.
Right, and not only counterintuitive, but like fundamentally impossible to understand because of just how our brains work.
Yeah.
Of course, depicting that is always tricky. But...
Well, yeah.
works best probably in written fiction, honestly. Then your mind gets to...
Then you can be like, it is a thing that I can't really describe.
Yeah.
Rather than...
And then like, because when you try to take it into like a visual medium, everyone's like, tentacles, gotcha.
Yeah,
right.
It's the old...
big scary thing, glowing eyes.
Yeah, it's the old like...
Tentacle mouth.
We're coming to you in a form that your mind can understand. I can understand before. You just looked like aliens before.
Yeah.
No, you couldn't understand that.
Yeah, the Invader Zim thing where they look like sneakers.
Yeah.
But
sorry, go ahead.
I just wanted to say that there's been like one Lovecraft inspired movie that I thought actually worked well, which was called Banshee.
Cam's having a small aneurysm.
Oh God! It's based on the short story From Beyond. It's called. Kathleen, could I ask you to look it up? It's Banshee Frequency, Banshee something.
1 second, let me Google it.
Thank you. This is
This will
actually
take a
super embarrassing.
second.
Anyways, the name isn't super relevant, but it's based on the idea that like, the character winds up taking some kind of drug that allows her to perceive things that are acting just out of phase with our reality, that are always there.
Right.
And always have been there and have been completely benign.
Right.
Until you look at them.
Until you observe them and then,
Yeah, and then you not only are they don't even come for you. It's just the fact that, like, this is all worthless then, like...
Yeah.
Right?
Just that they exist is so...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's called Banshee Frequency, you think?
Yeah.
Okay, so is it written by H.P. Lovecraft?
Yes.
The short story it was based on is called From Beyond.
Okay, it's Banshee Chapter.
Banshee Chapter,
okay.
yeah.
Cool.
And, like, it does a bunch of weird stuff. Like, it has a character in it who's basically Hunter S. Thompson. And they go to, like, of course, this abandoned army base that has, like, this frequency generator, right? That is the radio station they're all listening to that attracts these things.
Right.
I know there was a thing for a long time that Guillermo del Toro was going to be doing the Mountains of Madness.
Yeah, and then
And then-
Prometheus happened.
Yeah, and then it all got kind of messed up.
Yeah, it's like, and Prometheus was Prometheus is like the Mountains of Madness just enough that anyone who hears the pitch is like, well, this is Prometheus. And you can't just say like, yeah, but not shitty.
When you're looking at horror interactive mediums, I have like
yeah.
I have like an actual like ghost story for later. That's not really a ghost story, but that's for later. But we're just when you're looking at video games, and maybe we'll do a second episode of this, and Alex can talk about this because I know he has a myriad of opinions about horror video games. But again, there's sort of like these two sides where I've played the Resident Evil series since the beginning, and obviously they've gotten much more action games with zombies and less creepy horror. But the first game was really creepy. And then you look at the other side of things, and I remember years ago, Paul and I rented a copy of Fatal Frame.
Yes.
And we were playing it, and we were in a situation where we just stopped because it's like to progress the game, I have to go through that door. I don't want to go through that door, but it's the only way forward. So I guess I should stop playing the game.
It's just like, there's a certain point, especially with horror video games, where you're the one
because
pushing forward the story.
Right.
Where at a certain point you're like,
in real life,
I'm not enjoying myself.
Yeah.
I could be playing a fun Mario game right now.
Yeah.
Playing
What?
Klonoa 2 or something.
Yeah. What am I doing? Like, why am I doing this to myself?
Well, it's
I
like,
appreciate the artistry involved in creating this experience. It's just not a pleasant experience.
yeah, it's like you play those games in the same way that you eat a burrito with like nitric acid.
Yeah, way
like
too much hot sauce on it.
right?
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, this is so hot, I can't even deal with it right now. And people are like, why?
Why don't you
Why
stop
are you
eating
doing
it?
this? It's like,
Well,
I don't know.
Well, I bought the burrito.
yeah, and it's really good.
I bought the burrito.
It's well made. It's got good ingredients in it.
It's like your eyes are sweating blood.
No, it's okay. I'll just have another bite.
No, it's actually a really nuanced flavor profile.
Yeah.
The mouthfeel is off the charts. Like, man, Fatal Frame. There's something very different when you're controlling it and where you're like, because they put you in control of this person, and it's like, well, then let's leave. Right?
Yeah.
If it was me, I would be turning around and walking out
Yeah, just like peace
of the
out.
creepy Japanese school.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's a sort of horror aspect even to that. Totally aside from the, ghost jumping out at you or fighting things or whatever, but just the idea that, once you're sort of occupying that character or you're sort of playing as that character, you can't leave. I mean, in this case, because of the mechanics of the game or because of decisions that the developers have made, but nevertheless, the end result is you can't leave.
Right.
So, which is, which can be pretty. I mean, Fatal Frame did a lot of stuff with playing with, messing with the conventions of gameplay itself to enhance the thing. They would do stuff like every once in a while, your controller would start vibrating like a heartbeat, like a boom, boom,
Oh yeah,
boom,
yeah.
boom, and then start getting faster and faster and faster, and then stop. Sometimes something would come out and attack you. Sometimes nothing would happen.
Yeah.
And like there was no safe. Like once you cleared an area of like monsters, if you go back through there, nothing there. Go back through there, nothing there. 10 times later, you go back through there, guy jumps out at you.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was really good.
Or
Like,
just-
it's
you-
really good.
Or you open a door and
Didn't
there's
enjoy it.
you open the door and there's a guy standing like right there about to eat your face and then disappears before you can actually like bring up your weapon to attack,
Right.
and then never comes back.
Like,
Or
thanks,
maybe he
game.
will come back.
Right.
It's just like this is very well done, but yeah. But I think there is that aspect that that when you're watching a movie, you're passively observing it, right? Whereas having to take an active role in your own suffering.
Well, there's a lot of enjoyment
is
when you're
definitely
watching,
valued.
or at least a lot of catharsis, if not enjoyment. There's a lot of catharsis when watching a movie for yelling at the screen, right?
Right.
No, you idiot! Don't open the door.
If I was there, I would do this.
Don't go inside. Oh, you fool! And then when you're playing a video game, you're like,
No.
I guess I have to go open the door.
Yeah.
Oh, what's going to happen now?
I'm just going to stay here in the front hall. It's safe and nice here.
Yeah.
Like, agency is this really odd thing. Like, the one nightmare I've had that has ever really stuck with me happened when I was a kid, right? And I think I'd watched Alien for the first time.
Oh, God.
When I was way too young to do it. And of course I had a nightmare about the alien.
Right.
But it was in the neighbor's house.
Oh. Wait, what? Oh,
The alien was in the neighbor's house.
in your nightmare, you were at home and the alien was next door.
Yeah.
Okay.
And everyone else was going about their life except the alien was in the neighbor's house. And I knew it was there and I could see it doing its shit, right?
It was like some Rear Window stuff.
Yeah. And
Was it like pretending to be the neighbor?
no. It was I presume it killed the neighbor and was building a hive and doing alien shit there. And I was ignoring it. I was trying really hard to ignore it as people just started disappearing.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And everyone's has no idea why it's happening. But I'm the one who knows what's happening and I'm not doing anything about it.
That's terrifying.
Right? And the compulsion that now, because you're the one who perceives it, you're the one who has to do something about it.
Right.
That being what drives you to open the door, right?
Right.
To go into the room.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's been my one nightmare that I've
that's a
stuck with me.
solid nightmare.
Yeah.
I had a nightmare when I was a toddler, and it was robots shooting lasers.
That sounds
I had
very scary for a toddler.
Yeah. I now have awesome dreams like that.
Yeah.
in my memory now, it looks very much like the Transformers movie, because it's all
That's how you
it's all messed up. But I had not watched Transformers at that age, so I don't know what brought it on. But in my head, it looks very 1980s Transformers the movie, pew pew pew.
Right.
But it scared the crap out of me. I don't know why. I remember it vividly, even though I know that I was very small at the time, just because it was seared into one neuron that's still stuck around, being hey, remember this weird nightmare you had? Yeah, that one.
I'm trying to think of good horror games I've played, and I can't effectively come up with anything, right? Because
there's games that call themselves horror that I love, like Resident Evil.
Yeah, exactly.
But
they don't.
And horror games
they spook me out, right? I get spooked by them. But
what about? Did you play much more Alien Isolation?
Yeah.
Because Matt was pooping himself.
I mean, the problem with Alien Isolation
that was unrelated to the being afraid.
Yeah, I mean, dude needs to go to the bathroom.
Ate a bad burrito.
Yeah, playing 16 hours of Alien Isolation without a bathroom break. But I found Alien Isolation basically turned into a puzzle game for me, where you're you have these three rooms, and the alien is in one, and you're in another one, and you're trying to move over to the other room while attracting the alien to the room that you're in now, so that you can move over. And it's this is Towers of Hanoi. This is Towers of Hanoi with teeth.
Horror video games actually have an interesting. There's a weird balance that they have to strike, because you have to be, it has to be scary, obviously, but basically, you can't die in a horror video game,
right?
Because if you die in a horror video game, then you go back to wherever the last save point was. Or if they're being really dumb, that's back to the beginning of the game.
Right.
And then you do the same thing again.
And it's not
and doing
scary.
the same thing again isn't scary.
No.
So it's this weird thing where you have to feel like you're always in danger, but you never actually die, but they have to hide the fact that you aren't actually in danger, or that because that always happens with some of the amnesia games, really scary in certain parts.
Right.
But then they get into a problem where either you get stuck by a puzzle and when you're trying to like figure out how do I open the box or how do I do this key in a door, and there also is a monster around.
Right.
That's not real. Like it's not really scary because you're just like, stupid monster, go away! I'm trying to do this puzzle.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't think he'd disagree or mind me saying this, but that's the problem that Alex has because puzzles piss him off way more than the rest of us, and he'll be like super into a horror game, and then there'll be a puzzle that he doesn't like, and then he's just ruined.
Yeah.
His immersion is gone, and the whole rest of his gameplay session is just like fucking puzzles, and he can't get back into it.
And then there are the people who actually like kind of enjoy that, right? And their argument is like, oh yeah, it's like the thing where you're fumbling with the keys while the killer is coming for you, and you just like.
Right.
Your motor skills betray you, and it's like, I can see that, but on the other hand, like I'm totally with Alex on the puzzles as irritant.
The most effective thing that Amnesia did, that I was like, the whole thing is that you basically don't have any weapons in the game. Like you get a few little things, but it's a lot of hiding from stuff, right? But one of the really effective things they did is they have their own, they weren't using anybody else's engine. So they had their own engine that had its own set of stuff. So like you don't just activate things. You had to like sort of move, like if something moved, you had to like move it with your mouse.
Okay, right.
Right.
Which was kind of it was a unique thing and kind of cool for puzzles.
You had to like push the door.
But for stuff like doors, you had to actually like push it open, which is a small thing, but somehow like walking up to the door and going boop open, zoomp, as opposed to being like, eh.
Yeah, right.
Like, oh shit.
Yeah,
You just creak the door open, you hear breathing, you pull the door closed.
Yeah.
Like, well, I guess I live here now.
Yeah, but just like having, again, forcing you to take that active role.
Yeah, I like that. Just that little bit of
just was enough to really get you.
They should do a fumbling with the key thing. They should have like either like you have a keychain that comes up, or there's literally just a pile of keys on a table right beside the lock, and you actually just have to like pick up a key, try the key, pick up another key, try the key.
Yeah, instead of doing like these weird arbitrary puzzles where you're like trying to open the lock.
Yeah, and honestly, they could even do it so that like for what you said, they could even do it that like when the thing is X distance away, the next key you use will work.
Yeah.
Right? And just like don't tell the player that.
Yeah.
Cuz
and then it's like, "Oh, I made it just in time,"
Cuz the thing is, if you do that,
that'd be sweet.
And they're like trying to do the key, monster kills them.
Right.
The fifth time you're sitting in front of the stupid door trying different keys, you're going to be annoyed, right?
Yeah.
And then you're not scared anymore. Now you're just pissed off at the puzzle.
Every future time you just be like, this key.
Assuming it's the same key.
Yeah,
exactly.
Well,
That's
I mean,
why
like
you randomize.
You just backwards engineer it so that like, it's the third key you try all the time in this arbitrary key, and then like that's now the key for that door.
Yeah.
Right. Now it's the brass key.
If anyone wants to consult us on ideas for horror games,
yeah, we are available.
You can find us hiding under the bed.
Yes. All right, I want to tell you a funny story.
Okay.
It's not explicitly speaking a ghost story, but it's pretty entertaining. When I was younger, I lived with my parents, and at the time they owned a massive sort of Victorian era house. It was built in 1892, and it's like it was built on bedrock on a hill that they then lowered the road of, so it's like right up on a hill, right? It's like very creepy looking. It's got had 4 chimneys and 2 big front gables. And so it's this big ooh, and at school kids were like, there was 2 rumors about me at school. One was that we were rich, which was not the case, because when my parents bought the house, it had a demolition permit on it. Huh. It was good to go to be torn down, and they bought it for super cheap and spent basically 15 years restoring it. And the second rumor was that it was haunted. I lived in that house for 20 years, I guess, and it wasn't haunted. Sorry.
Not that you saw.
Not that I saw, but I lived there basically for
It was
more than half my life.
It was a shy ghost.
I guess. Sometimes in high winds, if we got like a really strong southeasterly, the door to my bedroom would like
Right.
blow open slightly just from like air pressure. That's it. There's creaky floors, but that was when a human being was walking on them. So,
Or so you thought.
or so I thought. Well, actually, my parents did tell me at one point that when I was still in the crib, when I was like just sort of learning to talk, they came upstairs and they heard me in my room going, "Oh, hello. Who are you? How did you get in here?" And they were like backing down the stairs. They were just sort of like I was practicing speech. I was just practicing talking.
Yeah.
But they were like, I don't want to go in there.
Yeah.
I don't want to know if he's actually talking to something. If he is, it hasn't hurt him yet.
Yeah. So he's
we'll
objectively fine.
We'll let it ride.
Yeah.
That's the only legitimately creepy thing that happened. But once when I was in a stroller, so this I do not remember, but I was told about this later. My mom was coming home and
You don't remember because of the horror,
the trauma.
Yeah.
We were so she was pushing the stroller up to the house and she saw these two kids, probably grade school, maybe early high school, standing across the street pointing up at the house and talking to each other. And so she sort of just pulled just inside the front wall and listened, and they were like, no, it's like the house is haunted. This guy died in the attic, and he still lives like up there. And they were like pointing at like the top gables, where my dad was putting new insulation in, wearing a full body disposable Tyvek suit.
Right.
So it's like
Awesome.
the white.
Yeah.
And had chosen that moment to just take 5 and walk up to the window and admire the view.
Huh.
And stepped up to the window, and the two kids lost their mind and tore off down the street.
I was gonna say
Awesome.
And then unfortunately, he also happened to like run into a bee's nest up there, so he was like, "Ah!"
I believe the way my dad tells the story is that the two kids ran off in opposite directions, and maybe that's the case. I don't know, but that seems very theatrical. But
Nice.
the timing could not have been better. That they were actually discussing that there was a ghost who lived up there. My dad was like, white Tyvek suit up to the window, like face mask, like
Right.
the hood.
Yeah.
So it was just this white form.
Awesome.
Because the building still didn't look like anyone lived there at
Right.
the time. Like it was like the paint was all miserable. This was like right after they bought it. It looked like it was falling apart. So it looked abandoned, and then just
Nice.
real good.
Delicious.
There's a lot of there's the tourism trade in town would tell you that Victoria is one of the most haunted places in Canada because it's good for tourism.
Yes.
I bet
Yeah.
every city probably says that.
Probably. They have a vested interest in you believing that Victoria is one of the most haunted cities in Canada.
Yeah.
On that note, did you know that there's an entire underground network of tunnels beneath the city that, have large gabled, vaulted rooms with
Fancy.
stained glass?
There are some connected basements,
Yeah.
but
There are some catacombs underneath
I just remember when I first
Empress.
I just remember when I first moved to Victoria, somebody was telling me that no, there's like this one tunnel and you go out and it leads under the border to the US and there's like a bar under there.
that
How does
So you can go there and drink and I'm like,
we're on an island.
yeah,
right?
and it's like,
I would be very curious to see
the
the geography
drinking
of
age
that.
in the US is 21, right?
It's like
It's actually later
one,
there.
that's a dumb idea, because the drinking age is older in the States, and 2, the geometry of how that would
Yeah.
work
You couldn't
seems
even
highly problematic.
Yeah, it's like how about this? Instead of taking this tunnel to walk like the 100 kilometers across the border, why don't I just wait the 4 months,
Yeah.
which is probably faster.
There are when you if you ever find yourself in downtown Victoria, there's certain sidewalks that have the purple glass cubes in the pavement. So for one thing, fun fact, those weren't purple originally. That's from oxidization. And two, under there are like basements, some of which are connected, like on Lower Johnson, and in that area there was the like in Seattle there was the
sort of old town
raised
stuff,
street and then down a level to a and so you can have like basements in those buildings that have a front door that goes to nothing,
street level, right?
To old street level that is now like dirt,
right?
So there's a non-zero number of underground things, but the idea that there's a network of tunnels that exist to this day, no, they're
populated with Ninja Turtles and Chuds.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yeah,
that's a fun crossover.
I guess if there were a network of tunnels, they would probably be keeping them more secret rather than having tours.
Yeah,
they're guaranteed that anything from the network that still exists is A, no longer a network, and B, filled with like overstock greeting cards from the tourist shops.
Yeah,
because they're just basements now.
Or looks kind of like the basement of the VAC.
Yeah, where it's just like a mess of stuff.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
It's where we film a bunch of things. It's just
I do like
this is where we put all our broken tables.
There is a lot of that, not necessarily like underground tunnels and stuff, but I'm always fascinated, and it can, and speaking of horror stuff, it can get a little creepy. Some of the, especially in the sort of older town area downtown, some of the kind of back areas and between buildings and these weird little like secret areas that aren't like secret as in people are trying to keep them secret, but they're just secret in the sense that they are like completely enclosed, and the only way to get in is like one little teeny weeny door,
right?
And then it opens up into like a whole bunch more stuff.
Yeah.
And I always find that kind of stuff is always like fascinating, and it does have the slight sort of like creepy aspect to it, which is more it's more a feeling of like, this is where a horror movie would be shot, as opposed to like, I think there actually is like a ghost here. It's more like, this would be a great place to put a ghost, if there was a ghost.
I could sell this as a ghost locale.
Yeah. But
and I mean, you can probably tell from just our general sort of tenor over the course of this that we're generally pretty cynical about the idea of actual ghosts. But I mean, that doesn't stop me from like reaching into the room at night, like when I'm shutting down for the night, reaching in,
flicking on the lights first.
No, when the lights are on, turning off the light and closing the door. Just like, I don't want to see what's in the dark.
Yeah.
Oh, don't worry, you won't see it.
Yeah. No, exactly.
I don't do that as much anymore because our apartment doesn't really have a lot of like actual doors anyway, and there's light comes in from the street, so it's like. But when I lived at home, there was definitely like some, because I had to turn off the light to the landing when I went to bed, and I'd be like, reach out, turn off the light, shut the door to my room, and just be like, okay, now I'm in my room.
Yeah.
Okay.
I love there's a great Paul F. Tompkins,
People Are Still Afraid of the Dark,
bit where he's talking about the horror movie trope where the guy's like fighting all these monsters and then goes into like, you go into the bathroom and then like goes and splashes some water on his face and then looks up and there's a monster behind him. And he's saying like, I was really worried about that for a while, right. Just that thing of like looking in the mirror, looking down and looking back in the mirror and there's something behind you. He's saying I was really worried about that until I actually thought about it and I realized that in my apartment, the bathroom is so small that the only way a monster could get behind me is if he said, "Excuse me," first.
Look, I've seen that effect done really effectively in a couple of situations, right? Like in Twin Peaks, the end to Twin Peaks. That worked really well. I don't know if you're familiar with it.
No.
But
there was that one B44 music video
Oh, yeah.
Where one of the guys from B44 gets strangled by a different guy from the group.
Didn't they all look the same?
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Freaky.
It was one of the twins being strangled by the guy who was not the twins.
Oh,
And
okay.
then they were before 3.
Yeah. There's only ever 3 of them. I don't know why they were called B44.
Well, because they
Oh, 'cause 3 is
created
before 4, right?
Yeah.
Of course, that was why.
3 is before
I did
4.
know that, right.
And
Don't look this up.
And then
There are pox on the Canadian pop music scene.
there's the time that I shaved my beard and became beige.
Yeah, that was really good.
That
I
was
like
pretty creepy.
Gripping.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, especially that you were trapped in the mirror.
Yeah.
That was like a
Loading Ready Run does horror.
that was like a
That's got some.
recent addition to that. Or like we were like, well, we'll do the thing where he shaves and then he looks up and it's beige. And then having him be trapped in the mirror was like a late add-on.
Yeah.
Like, oh, you know what we could do?
Yeah, that's some body horror. You want that?
Yeah.
You turn into beige and you are in the mirror. Mwahaha.
Yeah. So good.
Anyway, I think that's I like the idea of maybe
Maybe we'll get some other people to talk about spoopy stuff as well.
yeah, maybe like James and Alex and Beej or Ian or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah.
It's Spooptober.
Indeed.
Spooktober. So anyway, thank you very much for watching / listening.
Yeah.
As always, our podcasts are brought to you by you, our supporters on patreon.com.
You did this.
You did this. And Kathleen, if you want to bring that up, you can check out our Patreon at patreon.com/loadingreadyrun down there in the corner. It supports not only this, but all the stuff we do. So appreciate it if you check that out. And that's it. So we'll talk to you next time.
Bye.
Bye-bye.